by no means have I run out of random shit to share. To be this good at random shit collecting, you have to be diligent. You have to be on call every day. And someone's yelling at me from the control room. I've got no idea what. That's Matt. I have no idea what he's saying. Last night, I came home with a new piece of random shit. It's old, of course, but it's new for me, and I'm going to share it with you in just a moment. Oh, hello, I'm back. I'm just spreading my talent across two computers here because I've got something that I was going to show to you, and I was going to try and get this live stream up at the same time, and here it is. So I'm going to play that, and that's going to be on there. So if you want to type some questions in, you can do that and I'll be able to read it. That's so cool. I'm so cool. Now, sorry, Clint. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to see you. And sans makeup.
Yes, no makeup today.
No, and you're fresh out of the shower. So just for the viewer at home, I did ring Clint at 4:00 this afternoon as agreed, and he actually had just jumped out of the shower, sparkling clean.
And naturally, I answered the phone with nothing on.
Fortunately, it was like this, though. So just so you know, it was like this. Yeah, it was okay. I love it. Clint, what first piece of random shit do you have for us?
It's actually a big piece of random shit, but it's actually really close to my heart.
Yeah.
A bit of background is when I was 7 years old, I was rescued by my grandparents, and I was brought up by my grandparents all the way up until the age of 17, where I then nursed my grandparents through cancer and dementia until they passed away. And during that time, a bit of family history, my grandfather was one of the heads of the CSIRO. My grandmother spoke 4 languages. And then my great aunt, beautiful great aunt, she was headmistress of a primary school for about 30 years in Forbes in New South Wales.
Yeah.
And she was the artist in the family, and she taught herself how to paint. So she would always come over on Sunday afternoons when we would have tea with the family, and she would always call me a special little friend. And subsequently, fast forward when she passed away, she left all of her paintings to me.
Wow.
And my favourite that I have up all the time, if you can see this, is this one.
Oh, it's magnificent.
It tells the story of my great aunt who always wanted to fall in love, and she did, and this is a self-portrait of herself and the potential love of her life, but she never got up the courage to actually tell him how she felt. So it's a bit of a heartbreaker, but it's also a reminder too of not to, take things for granted, and also to sort of tell your truth and tell your honesty, and you've got nothing to lose at all. Mm. The worst thing that somebody could say is no, and that's fine. So yeah.
That's a very beautiful story, Clint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And completely out of left centre there. I had no idea you were going to talk about that. That's gorgeous and a beautiful painting. And I think given our current lockdown circumstances, even more relevant, because you never do know what's going to happen, do you?
No, not at all. Like what's happening at the moment, or I don't know, a possum could fall out of the tree and scratch your face.
We've got 2 possums on our veranda every night, so that's a very real possibility for us.
Actually, speaking of possums, there was one time when my grandfather was under the house, and he said, "Now, go have a look at this. This is very scientific, and we're just going to get this possum, and you do this, and it'll be absolutely fine." And then he pissed on his face.
I love it.
I just see myself as a young kid going, well done, scientist.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, well, I'm going to share my first random piece, and this is a piece that I acquired last night. I have been admiring it for some weeks now, and also associated with older people. So I'm just going to lean back. This vase here, oh, let me bring it. I have roses in it.
Oh, gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, and I've just been doing a little bit of research, and I think it's a 1950s vase from Germany, and so it's come from my mother-in-law, and it belonged to my father-in-law's mother, who hated my mother-in-law. So a couple of weeks ago I brought this beautiful big bunch of flowers for my mother-in-law, and I said, "Oh, Mum, aren't these gorgeous?" And they were those beautiful lilies that remind Matt of old people, because that's the kind of, it's that kind of fragrance. Anyway, they're beautiful though. So, and I said, "Oh, this will be the perfect vase to put them in." So I raced inside, and this is where she had the vase where she doesn't normally go, so she doesn't usually see the vase. Anyway, so I bring it out, I put it up on the sideboard, and I stick these flowers in. And so every single day I go down to visit my mother-in-law, and we say, aren't those flowers beautiful? And she sits there and she says, "Yes, but do you know that vase belonged to Alan's mother, and she hated me? She never had a nice word to say about me." And I say, "Oh, yes, but it's a lovely vase." And she said, "Yes, but..." And so this is this daily thing. So for the last 2 weeks, we've been discussing this beautiful vase, how Alan's mother hated her, never had a good word, and yet the vase is really lovely. So last night I get down there, and she'd been telling me, she'd say, "You can have that when I'm gone. When I'm dead, you can have that." Anyway, last night, clearly it got all too much for her, and she said, "Robin, you must take the vase tonight. I don't want to see it anymore." So now I have this beautiful fish mouth vase, and I've done a little bit of research, and I think it's a Jasper ceramic vase. Yeah, I mean, whatever that means.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. So it's actually really lovely. And, so there you go. That's my first piece of random shit.
I've got a second piece.
Yes, good.
So I've had this for about 14 years. And I found this jar. So this jar in an op shop. I think it was actually a tip shop a while ago. But then... So I call it like a jar of memories. So when a really strong memory comes up for you, you write it down, then you put it in the jar, and then at the end of the year you can take out a memory, and then you get to relive that story. So I took a memory out today, and I wanted to share the memory that came from the jar today. Was so when I was around about 10 years old. What it said on the memory. It said the fishing expedition with my grandfather, and 10 years old, never been fishing before. And my grandfather said, "Well, I'll take you out on a fishing expedition because he's an expert in fishing." And he took me down to the University of Queensland's duck pond.
So hang on a tick, Clint. Is he an expert in fishing in the same way that he's an expert in handling possums?
Well, he seems to think that he was, and the twist happens in that, you know how people are really good at doing the bait, and they do the bait. I hated doing the bait. And then he said, all you have to do is just hold on to the fishing rod really tight and don't let go. And I said, okay. About 5 seconds later, I got pulled into the pond because I didn't let go. And I heaved and heaved and heaved and heaved, and all of a sudden this 3-meter-long black eel slid up out onto the embankment, clocked eyes on my leg, it licked its lips and then wrapped itself around my leg. And then my grandfather started hitting it with his fold-out chair. And you can't make this up because this is all real. Then the security guards from the university pulled up in their car because they'd seen what was happening, and they reprimanded us because they said you have to put university property back into the pond. And the only way that we could get it off my leg was to get the piece of chicken out of the sandwich that my grandmother had made for me and put it near its nose and then, get it to go back into the pond. And then you'd think, okay, fine, I've got my leg back and no blood has been drawn and I'm totally fine, just a bit sore. But then a group of geese saw us, and then, geese are evil. Geese are evil. They came over and then they savaged us. And they draw blood, which is very interestingly because they don't have as big a teeth as an eel. So this jar has a lot of memories over the years, and that was the memory that I brought out today.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's so funny. And so what was the discipline that your grandfather was expert in with CSIRO?
Also, he traveled the world in dealing with how to eradicate, different methods on how to eradicate the cattle tick. So I'm just in the middle of digitizing 3,000 slides from their travels around the world. So in over about 15 different countries between 1940 to about 1983. So it's you get to see their life in pictures of, like, I knew them for, the better half of, 16, 17 years. But then what happened before that, it's a gorgeous thing to explore, discover and celebrate.
That's wonderful. Wow. I'm just thinking about what you might be doing with those slides next.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Okay, now my second piece is, it's actually an envelope, and as I was going through the stamp collection for yesterday's random shit sharing.
I love stamps.
I do too. Oh, that's wonderful. Clint, we might have a cup of tea together one day. So as I was looking through the stamp collection, I came across an envelope, and I think it might be dated about 1995, so it's not ancient or anything. But as I flicked it over to read who it came from, it's from Ruth Phillips and Andy Johns. Now, I have no idea who Ruth Phillips and Andy Johns are, like no recollection whatsoever. And I even asked John, he also doesn't know. So now, if Ruth Phillips, if you know Ruth and Andy, and they lived at Woods Eaves in Staffordshire, England in the 1990s. I've even looked up the address on Google Maps, of course, so I can see the house. Doesn't make any difference. So, look, Ruth and Andy, if you're out there, I'm sorry that I don't remember who you are, but clearly you knew me and John because you sent us a letter, and I don't even know what was in it because it's completely empty.
Oh, what do you think? You could make something up?
Well, that's the story of my life. Everyone's got a story, and I just make it up if I don't know it. So that's that.
What does it smell like? Because I watch people that smell books.
It smells like musty, stampy, boxy smell.
The best.
Yeah. That's what it smells like. So it's got a 43p stamp on it. Oh, and the watermark, the postmark says, on the front says, please control your dog when mail is delivered. And on the back, I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
It says Kit Kat.
Oh, I love Kit Kats.
I do too, but why would you have that as a postmark? Seriously. It's weird, isn't it?
Maybe don't forget the Kit Kat. So maybe when the postman arrives,
maybe
they knew that you had a dog that you had to actually, entice the dog away with the Kit Kat so it wouldn't bite the postman.
Well, it could do. It says take a break, Kit Kat. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, what am I going to do with stuff like this, Clint? Seriously, can you throw that sort of stuff away or not?
I also found this.
Oh.
So it's just made out of like a wicker basket.
That's that's nice.
It's got marbles for eyes. It always shocks people when they come through the door because they think it's real.
Yeah. So just quickly, Matt's just put up a character that you've known for about 16 years. Tell me a little bit about Boof.
So Boof came to me in a period where I'd gone through a lot of trauma from essentially my grandparents passing away, and I was living in a nursing home and helping to nurse them. And at that same time, I was studying theatre at QUT. And during that time at QUT, we were discovering comedy, and we were being taught commedia and clown. And through that time, I discovered the joy of, because I'm always agoraphobic and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I found that I was able to hide behind a character and I was able to make an audience laugh. And it wasn't an ego thing at all. It was a therapeutic thing, and it was also purely about the joy of sharing something, hearing the laughter, and then later on being able to analyze that and go, oh, wow, it's actually helping to change people's lives. So for me, Boof came out of a period where laughter and comedy essentially saved my life. And I never say that lightly. So Boof is the sort of alter ego of myself in that he is able to say and do anything that I wouldn't normally have the courage to be able to do, let alone do that in front of 2,000 people a night. And he got his first gig when I was 19. He looked completely different to what you're seeing now, because a clown always grows as you do as a human and as a performer. So it's like giving birth to this, and then it grows into what you see now. But he got his first gig in Japan, and I did 900 solo shows in Japanese with Universal Studios. And so that learning that you have there, where you can start to sink and ingrain in him. And so long story short, we're doing a lovely show on Sundays, and before this, we're looking at developing a show that would tour theatres next year. So all the stories that he says on in his show are real stories that come from my childhood. It's just through the guise of this larger-than-life theatrical character, where it's kind of a cross between Tim Burton, but you're comfortable to be with him as if you were having a cup of tea at your great auntie's place on a Sunday afternoon. So that's the short version of it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. And when I saw your promo photo, I was instantly captivated, and I'll just encourage the viewer to go and look for Boof, and you can find Boof on Facebook. And you can join in. So what's really cool is that you've got it as an event.
Yeah.
So
and it's only for donations. If you can, you can. If you can't, you can't, because it's purely about just connecting with people in this time, because everybody's going through lots of turmoil.
Yeah, for sure. So go and check out Boof, because you'll know exactly why I love that photo so much the instant you see it.
And the story behind it too is because when I was adopted by my grandparents, it was as if I was going back in time to the 1970s, because their house was exactly what you see on that photo with Book.
Oh, wow.
So being brought up by another generation in another physical generation, that's why I kind of don't, this is really a little bit in that it's hard for me to connect with people my own age, if that makes sense.
Sure, I understand.
And even through growing up, as well.
I understand. All right,
Yeah.
So that's just actually between you and I, Clint, because it's not like we're sharing it with the whole world.
No, it's great.
Oh, God, it's been so nice to talk to you. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
All right. Well, I'll just tune in on Sundays and see Boof as well.
Yeah. Oh, he'd love it. He'd love to share a cup of tea and a biscuit.
Yeah. All right. See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
How fabulous was that? Oh, my God. You really will have to go and have a look at it. Tomorrow, I've got someone else on, and we're going to share, let's think about it, more random shit. All of that, the background and everything, are they all your items, or is that from Stefan?
They're all mine.
Wow.
I could probably show you quickly. So in my house,
Yes.
all these paintings and all the knickknacks and everything is a little bit of it. That's everything has got a story from my childhood and everything, because I'm such a visual person, intangible person. I have to be able to feel it.
Yes.
That memory